Tervehdys taas, rakkaat ystävät, ja tervetuloa keskiympyrän pariin. Tällä kertaa saamme vieraita saarelta. Mariehamninaan mennään, ja IFK Mariehamnin päävalmentaja Gary Williams hyppää hetken kuluttua tuohon vieraan penkille. Englantilaisvalmentaja, hän tuli IFK:n päävalmentajaksi kesken viime kauden, kun Bruno Romao sai astua syrjään, ja Gary Williamsin tärkein tehtävä tietysti oli säilyttää IFK:n kanssa sarjapaikka Veikkausliigassa, ja sehän onnistui, ja tälle kaudelle sitten Gary Williams jatkaa IFK:n päävalmentajana. Kokenut valmentaja kyseessä. Suomessa häntä on aiemmin pääsarjatasolla ainakin totuttu näkemään naisten puolella, mutta nyt siis tosiaan IFK:ssa, ja ensimmäistä preseasoniaan myöskin luotsaa nyt sitten ahvenanmaalaisseuraa. Otetaan Gary Williams mukaan ja kysellään, että miten preseason on pyörähtänyt käyntiin. Hello, good evening, Gary. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Ville.
Hi. How are you? How is everything?
Yes, quite well. Life is good. Life is good. Couldn't complain.
Always sunny in Åland, or how's
Yeah,
it been?
maybe so. Paradise Island, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sun is shining most of the time. I think we're quite blessed at the moment. Us football coaches and players probably enjoying this less harsh winter. So nice to be on the fields.
Yeah, that is true. So what's up right now? I mean, we are now in the middle of February. The preseason is on. So what is happening right now at the moment in IFK?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed over these last 2 years, if we would say, and we're still in this moment of change in culture. If we talk about the club as a whole, and also this team in where we want to go, and where do we want to go? Well, the question is always asked, and we want to be a club that promotes own products, a club that is attractive to come to and take a next step. Because here in the island, we have the calmness to really work a lot. So players that come here have the calmness and the opportunity to work a lot and play a lot. So at the moment in the island, 6 weeks into pre-season, we're still building the team, building the connections between the players, but also we've got a lot of new staff and new players to bring up to speed. So a lot is happening.
Yeah, and last year you came in the middle of the season, took the role as a head coach, and the main task, of course, last year was to stay in Veikkausliiga, which you did. That last round was crazy, but happy ending for you. And what kind of talk did you have after that with the club? Was it obvious for you that you will continue as a head coach, or how did it went?
Yeah, I think that period was both filled with elation because of the last game and staying in the division. We maybe didn't expect that. It was a rocky road in the autumn. So immediately after that, it was just purely, let's enjoy the moment. But again, that's the second year that the club has been in that situation of in the last rounds, the previous year going in the playoffs and surviving, and last year probably looking like it was going to be the playoffs. But then we managed in that last game. So I think immediately afterwards, it was just to take a moment to breathe, enjoy the fact that we did reach the goal of staying in the league. But then soon after, a couple of weeks or so, we had some discussions with the club, and knowing the club, knowing the island, the context of this life, certainly the discussions to continue led from there. And I feel really good about continuing with the team and the club.
Yeah. What would you say about the preseason so far? How's it been, like these first weeks or month or so?
Yeah, this is the first time for me with this team in a preseason, and I can say that there's been a few disruptions, both some injuries, unexpected players coming back in different, can you say, levels of fitness, and we have to try and synchronize everyone onto the same page before we can push. And new staff, new fitness coach, new transition coach that came in with more resources, and a lot of new players. If we think about the end of the season with all that elation, in our first two League Cup games, we've had probably 3 players in the first game against Inter that were on the field for the last game of the season last year. And against Gnista now there were 4 players. So there's a lot that we need to work on and do, but none more important than helping the players synchronize those connections and taking steps forward with their fitness.
Yeah. What is the role of League Cup for IFK?
Yeah, I think it's great that we have this League Cup, and it gives us competitive games, not just friendlies where people can think that it doesn't matter. It matters. Every game matters, and in context of every game, you go in to win and find a way to win. But there is, of course, in preseason a greater objective, which is to synchronize the relationships with players so that the team can function. So learning how we can play, getting players and the connections to work on the field, but also understanding the players more. So, for example, if you look at Anthony in the last game, Hutanen playing in a different role, maybe against Knistan, and showing some really good qualities. And that's a player with a lot of potential. But with our team being so young on league experience, I think I counted the other day, and apart from Sebastian Dahlström, there's maybe not that many players with more than 1 or 2 years in the league. And Anthony's one of those that I think can really blossom this year. So League Cup, it's about learning our players and learning areas to develop of what would enable us to be successful during the season.
Yeah. Do you already see the progress, like you talked about to synchronize the team?
Yeah, it's really difficult at the moment with us. We have trial players coming in and out, and then we have some injuries that have occurred in the last game against Knistan, for example. I think our attacking 4 players were out: Tehi, Hugo, Jaden, Admiral, new player. So it's difficult to say in that way, but I think we're getting closer to how we both can play, understanding that our opponents maybe have bigger budgets and players with more league experience. So to develop maybe a more cynical way of playing. So that's helpful for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like you said, there is players coming in and some players that you are testing. So, how do you see how many players do you still need to sign to this team, or how ready is
Yeah.
IFK team at the moment?
I think the good part about our team at the moment with new players and maybe lack of league experience is that the upside to develop is huge. So it's not a question of what and how can we do it. I think it's a question of when and how much time do we have to really create these connections. Having said that, we still need 2 players at least to come into the team to help us both with experience to push the team forward, but in key positions that will enable us as a collective to be better on the field.
Yeah. What is your role in scouting the players or signing the players, and who is doing? I I I assume that you have some kind of small team doing that.
Yeah, we are. I mean, in Åland, probably not dissimilar to many of the club teams. We're all wearing many different hats and trying to get as much as we can out of every resource. So at the moment, it's working with the CEO, sport director Jimmy, and working with the other coaches, Daya and Sundis, who have a lot of Sundis, especially very analytical and a lot of league experience. So together as a group, we are, all the time sending messages and reviewing players.
Yeah, and like in past years, of course. Well, not like recently, but like years before we have seen many players, especially from Sweden, coming to IFK. Maybe that's a little bit changed now. And of course, you're from England, so do you have like your own network that you are using now? For example, Admiral Muskve came from England, and he's this is his first time playing outside of UK. So do you have some kind
Yeah.
of a network there what you are using?
Yeah, it's maybe my network is maybe not as big as you would think, being British, and being there. And yeah, I had some good times when I was a youth, but I left at 18 from England and went to the United States to play and started coaching. But I think one of the biggest benefits that we have is from last year with Jaden Reed returning to really good form in the autumn and great things to be expected. And when those kind of things happen, word spreads. There is a network that we have and we use with Jimmy and some former players that are in the championship clubs. So we have a good network to use, and I think the best thing we can do is to do well with the players that come here, and that's a good signal. I think that's why Admiral was interesting in EFCO, because of what we were able to do and help Jaden in the past.
And when do you think we'll going to see more of him? Because we don't really know who is Admiral and what kind of player he is.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate for him. He came in for a test week, and in the training you can see he was really good in finishing in and around the box. So that's something. He's a bit of a different presence than we had last year with Artem. Artem was a good goal scorer and a finisher, a different kind of profile. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's having a muscle injury at the moment, so we'll find out a little bit more this week what stage he's in and how quickly he can return to play.
Yeah. Well, if you compare the team the last year and this year, of course, there's still some players coming in, but how much same things or how much differences there is?
In the way of play, the team, the players, or
Yeah,
what do
maybe
you?
maybe maybe both. Maybe both.
Yeah. I think the intention of every coach, if you ask them, is to play attractive football, high pressing, win the ball high, and play through the thirds, and create big scoring chances.
Yeah.
And then it depends on the makeup of your team. And last year we had with Jaden and Hugo and Tehi in the wide areas. So to continue along a similar theme, but as we have seen in the results and the performances recently, we need to be tighter in and around our own half and our own box. So that's an area that we need to nail first before we can open freely and just play attacking football.
Yeah. So how about the coaching staff? What is like you have different people for different roles. How would you describe the team?
Yeah, the coaching staff that we're working with, Johan Sundman, goalkeeper coach and assistant coach, he's very analytical, really good. He's been doing this for a long time with the goalkeepers, very good technical coach, but also really good game insight, especially of the opponents. So we work together quite a lot, looking at the opponents and then creating the game strategy alongside Daniel Querland, Dyer, who has great experience from playing at the highest level and competing. And as a midfielder, being able to see those different connections and options when we're going forward. So we discuss quite a lot about the attacking play, and he's working a lot with our midfielders and the connection to the forwards. And then this year we have Edward Kukko, who came from Honka in the past as a talent coach to work primarily with our young transition players. So his focus is a lot on Ville Nunes, Arvid Lundberg, Milton Janssen, in addition to some of the other local players that are coming through. So those are our main technical coaching staff and assignments. And then we have a new fitness coach. We have, of course, physio. And so a good working environment, I think, with a nice group.
Yeah. There's a question here in the chat about the coaching staff and the main thing is if you could have like more people working with you, what are the roles that you feel are lacking, or where do you need more hands if you would freely pick someone or something?
Yeah, I think that as I said earlier, we are all wearing many hats.
Yeah.
And I think that we could benefit from somebody doing a little bit more work on opponent analysis and video analysis. At the moment, it falls on the coaches. So it's not something that we don't mind doing, of course, and it's an important part of the game, but there's a lot around that process that you can accelerate and speed up, so we can spend more time actually in discussion around the game strategy versus creating the opponent analysis or the post-game review.
Yeah. Well, you were speaking also about the young players who are from Åland, and of course you know people people there and the fans well. How important for for the club and for the people of Åland is that there is those local players who get their chances and maybe go from IFK even further?
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's one of the reasons that we exist. So local players can progress from youth to pro without needing to go abroad. If you rewind many years, there was a group of extremely talented players: Jani Luski, Tommy Virtanen, Christopher Wexström, Peter Lundberg, and these players, during those times were almost, they had to go abroad to academies or to youth teams to progress in their career because the environment wasn't at that point enough. So now we are trying and putting a lot of resources in transition coach, IFK 2, which is the first time we've had a second team last year, to create that environment for the local players that they do not need to go abroad in order to develop. And actually being here is probably the shortest path to pro, because we are a waterlocked island.
Yeah.
So we have every opportunity to use the local players, but really important for the community. You see that when you walk the streets.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about next. I mean, this upcoming season with you, but also I wanted to ask you, and there is also questions here in the chat about your past. You've been in Finland for a long time, like you said before that you left UK pretty young. You went to USA, but what is like your background in Finland? I know that you were in HJK, you were coaching there, the women's team, and then you came to Åland and coached Åland United there.
Yeah, my coaching journey started in the US after I was a young trainee professional in the academy at Chelsea first, and then at Bournemouth, and then at 18 not making it as a pro and going to the US to study and play, and then coaching. And then I came to Helsinki, Finland, with my now wife, who is from Helsinki and played in HJK, and then started the journey. Met with some people there in HJK, Petri Jaatinen, and started coaching in HJK with the juniors and the women. And like you said, then on to Åland United and came to the island in 2013. In the past, also working with the juniors in HJK and PK35 on the boys' side in the academies. And then in Åland United for 3 years, 2013, 14, 15, some good years, working alongside some very good Finnish professionals. Fortunate enough to have a great team that won the league in 2013. Silver medal in 14, just missing out in the last game. Epic game, 1,500 supporters in 2014 here in Åland. But it wasn't to be. And then 2015, also bronze medal. Then I worked also with the women's national team as a staff coach there under Andre Eglitz, a fantastic coach and a guy that took a lot of women's football forward, I think. And then also worked, most recently as talent coach and sports chef in IFK Mariehamnin for 3 years now on the junior side.
Yeah, so pretty much you've been in Åland since 2013, or did you live somewhere else in between?
Yeah, 2013, been here. 2 young kids, they're enjoying life at home, speaking Finnish and Swedish. So I have to find the time to speak English with them. But this is a great place, and they are very passionate about their football and development. So it's a nice place to work.
How is your Finnish and Swedish?
Yeah, I passed my citizenship in Swedish, so olen opiskellut suomen kielen 2-3-vuotias, mutta se on tosi vaikea kielen. Ja tror att svenska mycket lättare.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what are the things, because as we know, like it's an island, and if we think about how you build a team every year, of course some players or some persons love it so much that they want to stay for a longer period, but usually it's 1 year or 2 years, and then people move somewhere else for maybe different reasons, but still, but what's it for you that you love the life and the way of living there?
Yeah, I think the calmness and the nature that you're so close to, but also I think around the club we have some really good people now driving the culture of the club forward. Rezga Armani on the youth side, Jimmy Vari on the men's side, and there is a lot of resources now going in and around youth football and men's football. So it's a pleasure and a joy to work. You have the opportunity to make a difference, and in the Åland Island, everywhere you walk, people are connected. There's a genuine kindness on the street. I tell many people it's like if you rewind society back to when I heard my mother and grandmother talking about leaving the door open during World War II, and just running up the street to the neighbor, and I think that's what we have in Åland. There is a genuine consensus from society to want each other to do well and not take advantage of that.
Yeah. Well, I understand that, and it sounds good. And of course, I've been there many times, commentated the game. So it's a beautiful place, and also started to become like a special place for me as well.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, you also coached the women's national team, Finnish national team. So I wanted to ask you, of course, I assume that you have been following also women's football a lot. And what are your thoughts now about Helmarit, that they went to the Euros and playing in the Euros in the summer? From your perspective, how do you see how has the Helmarit developed in this past few years?
Well, when I was working as an assistant coach with Andre, and then also one period as under 23 coach, I think it's really exciting. The opportunities for these young players, and Finland in genuine, I think general have moved a lot of good young talent. It used to be the Sweden, but now you see them entering into the UK in the English league, with Ria Erling making her debut this past weekend with Crystal Palace, and the Siren sisters making waves. So I think it's really exciting, and it's great to follow Marco Salaranto and his influence in the team, because he knows so much the thread of the Finnish football and the talent that is there, and has done a tremendous job with the youth for so many years. So nothing but exciting, I think, to watch them play, and also really interesting to see Linda Selstrom continue to lead the front lineup. I think the youth is good, but you need that balance with experience to help guide the young players to performances. So exciting to watch. Yeah, it will be fun.
Yeah, for sure. We are all waiting for the summer in that sense as well. But if we go back to IFK and Veikkausliiga now, of course, it's the preseason, the longest preseason in the world. But the season is somewhere there beginning. So what are the main goals this year for IFK? Like you said before, and like we spoke, the past few years has been rough for IFK, and there's been battle against the relegation. So
Yeah.
what are the thoughts now?
I think every year you intend to be better than you were before. better than last year. But it's not just about the league result. Of course, we need to establish ourselves and be stable there above the drop zone. But it's about also developing the individuals, developing the player, the culture around this environment so that we continue to develop our own youth. That's one of the big things. In order to develop our own youth, we need players that can help them take those steps on the field and continue to be in Veikkausliiga to ensure they have a platform to play on at the very best. So in short, in summary, develop our own players, continue to be better than last year, which last year 10th, so 9th or above.
Yeah.
Stable.
Yes, and well, of course, every team in Veikkausliiga now, they're preparing and signing new players and everything. So it's really hard to tell at the moment. But how do you see the league overall? Like, what is your biggest competition? Which teams, or how do you see the league?
Yeah, I think when you look at the player budgets, then you maybe get a pretty clear indication of who you're battling in and around and who's maybe out of reach, and you hope to get points on those trips. Anything can happen. That's why we play the game, which is exciting, and there's many ways to win football games. So I think it's the job of us coaches with the club and the staff to find ways to be successful. But in regards to the league, I think in taking this role at the end of last year, you can really appreciate certain coaches and styles and ways of play that maybe as a supporter and a fan, you don't get to see that often. When you take the magnifying glass and you look at Gunistan, for example, and the way that they play and the things that they do, the movement off the ball, nothing but absolute praise for the coach there, because I think Jussi has done a tremendous job, and it's really exciting to see. And then you look at Inter and the versatility in their squad, but also their way of play. There are so many things to appreciate about coaches. I think it's more tactical, and our coaches are actually really good, really, really good at the way that they set up their teams, to the way that they play. So I think they're underappreciated, to be honest, some of these coaches. It's not just simply watching the game and seeing the result, but there's a lot of things happening off the ball that I think would warrant more interest.
Yeah, I agree totally. Also, I have to pick one question here from the chat, because there someone wants to know, what are your dreams or goals as a coach?
Yeah, I'm a little bit older now than maybe. Yeah, I'm not this young coach that's popping up to play. My goal as a coach is to help players develop. That is the first and primary goal and objective. I don't have goals. I think of a 5-year plan, a 3-year plan to be there or be here. I want to learn and develop, but I also take a lot of ownership on players developing their game, playing with the excitement of what's possible, not seeing the limitations, but looking at a player and saying, just imagine if you could do that, how much greater your performance could be, and then what we could do. So that's what excites me, the potential in the players, the potential in the team. And that's my goal and objective. If we do that well, things will fall into place and things will open up. But this year, it's about maximizing the potential in our very young but potential squad.
Yeah. One thing, we met last year, I think, for the first time before some games, and had some interviews and spoke about football and how you play, and even it was a difficult season for you and IFK. I think that you always had a positive mindset before the game, and you always took some positive things from like how you play football. So and this also is a thing that I spoke with, for example, Joonas Rantanen, the Ilves head coach, that this really like nice and positive and polite coaches. And I asked from Jonas also, I wanted to ask you that, do you still have that old like an old school hairdresser
Hair
when
dryer.
if hair dryer if you need it, like in the halftime, or do you always are you always so calm and kind and like you are when we are talking
Yeah.
with each
So
other?
it's a great question. I think in general, um, positivity breeds positivity, and to invest in those thoughts and what's possible, and I think that is the way to go. But there also needs to be a reality check that this is not okay.
Mm.
What we just did there was not enough, and I think coaching is a lot like parenting, to be honest. Sharing some secrets there. I have
Yeah.
a young daughter who just turned 15 and a 17-year-old son who's playing football. And I say that parallel because if you want your daughter to clean her room, maybe sometimes you just need to tell her and demand it to clean your room. But sometimes you have to give them a reason. And I think that that's more the way of leading players to a higher performance, getting them to understand what that could do for their game, getting players to understand that if they do the hard work, it will open up the opportunity and give you the platform to then play beautiful football. So I think it's more of in today's modern game, to helping players understand the game more and what they could benefit from doing that, those actions. Having said that, being a British guy, sometimes we need players on the field just to tell them how it is.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like parenting, or we see a lot of coaches that have a background as a teacher. So
Mm, yeah.
and maybe that's a thing that doesn't surprise us, you know. The
Yeah, maybe. And at the end of the day, football is a thinking sport. It's a decision sport. So we need to enable the players to make better decisions, quicker decisions, around maybe identifying patterns and identifying different movements in order to make good decisions to close space, open space. And I think for me, when I was growing up as a 17-year-old in Bournemouth, under the coaching of Sean O'Driscoll, who went to Doncaster Rovers, coached with England a little bit, went to Liverpool. He was the first player for me that opened up that spectrum of decision making, rather than just the pure British midfielder running box to box and smashing everything. To think football, and I think that is where we want to take football. You can be really athletic, you can be good at striking the ball, but it's about decision making on the field.
yeah, exactly. Um, so, what do you think, if we look this year's IFK? For me, because for me, Veikkausliiga,
Mm.
as it as its best is having these young talents, young Finnish
Mm.
talents that we see maybe a year or 2 years, and we hope that they succeed and they go to play on a higher level. So uh, I think you have
Mm.
some exciting talents if you think about like you said before, Antoni Huttunen, who had an amazing season in KTP. Now, of course, then we can talk it that is 23
Mm.
still. Is it anymore a young player? But still, like he has a bright future, I believe, and also I love players like Niilo Kujasalo.
Mm. Mm.
So who what do you think? Is it fair for you to say who are the players uh, who we should look next year from IFK?
Yeah, the two that you mentioned have a lot of potential, and I think it's just a matter of how quickly can they adapt to Liga football and then showcase their qualities. So for Anthony, he's already showed, first game against FC Inter was a bit of a struggle, and just finding the connections in the speed of the game for a lot of our players. But then in the last game, in the second half especially, showed some really good qualities about finding space and getting into scoring positions. And then with Nilo as well, what a player he will be and is at the moment, with his energy on the field, his level of fitness. I haven't seen that. I've watched him play over the last 2 years around the youth national teams as well. And I think right now he's at a very interesting point that will play a big role in our team. But then you also have players like Emmanuel Patut from last year, who in the game against Oulu hit the decisive assist pass into Adam Larsson, no-look reverse pass. And those are things that we need to help him replicate so that he can take the next step as well. So many, I think, good young talent players, including our own Mike Fonsell, who, really evolved last year into that centre-back position with a great passing foot. So it's exciting, but there's also a reality check that talent only brings you so far. And then it's character and hard work that gets you to the other side. So well done, congratulations. Now you're on the platform. But your character of what you're doing on a daily basis and your qualities on the field, your hard work, will either give you the platform to take the next step, or it will be a tough time.
Yeah. Well, we can start wrapping things up, but one thing I wanted to ask, because we have one listener who always wants to ask the same question from every coach that visits the show, so I will ask it from you as well. Of course, you've seen a lot of football in your years, and you've been coaching women and men and also kids and juniors. So what kind of things you would say to a young coach who has started his or her career as a coach? What kind of things you would like to tell him or her?
I think be humble, continue to be a student of the game, and then decide and do. Don't overthink it, because until you start walking, you will never be sure if that's the path or you need to course correct and change. But you've just got to get out on the field, and you've got to coach sessions. I would find a mentor, someone that you can learn from, someone that you can bounce ideas from. But in general, it's about getting on the grass and going through logically how you want to prepare the session, and then evaluate it and see where you can improve.
Thank you. That sounded really good. Is there a thing, a game or a moment that you are waiting for when the new season begins, or is the focus now on the daily work that you're doing on preseason?
Yeah, a lot of it on the daily work. Of course, we have a lot of things that we want to maybe amplify in our way of play and improve and make better, but there's nothing more that you look forward to than the opening season of the game, and to play it against a Finnish Swedish club like Jaro here in the Åland Islands. I think we are really excited and looking forward to that, especially with the connection of one of our sponsors, Anders Wickloff, who supports both clubs. So it'll be a really special moment, I think, in April.
Yeah, that I agree, and I hope I'll get to commentate that game, or if not, then I'll be watching. But Gary, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you, and looking forward to see you guys. Of course, IFK playing and meeting you before the games. So all the best, and keep up the good work there.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here, and greetings to everyone that's watching and listening, and welcome to Åland anytime, Paradise Island.
Exactly. Thank you, and have a nice evening. Heija Åland.
Hejdå.
Iso kiitos vielä Gary Williamsille vierailusta keskiympyrässä. Upea herrasmies, hänen kanssaan aina hienoa jutella jalkapallosta. Ja niin tälläkin kertaa siinä valotettiin vähän, että minkälaisista lähtökohdista IFK Mariehamnin tulee lähtemään Veikkausliigakauteen 2025. Tässä oli kaikki keskiympyrästä tältä kertaa. Nyt ei muuta kuin oikein paljon kiitoksia seurasta ja palataan jälleen ensi viikolla asiaan. Moi moi!